Impact Audio presents The Masculinity Manifesto by Ryan Michler, read for you by the author. Dedication. To my beautiful wife Tricia, my 3 incredible sons, and my lovely daughter, I will never lose focus and I will never jeopardize my priorities. You are the reason for my work and the fuel for the words found in this book. Introduction. In 2015, I started a fledgling little podcast called Order of Man. Since then, that podcast has been downloaded more than 45 million times, has grown its reach across various social media platforms to more than 1 million followers, and I can't even count how many men have messaged us with sincere gratitude for the work we've been doing over the past 7 years. But truth be told, I didn't set out to reach millions of men across the world. I didn't set out to record more than 900 episodes as of 2021, over 400 of them with some of the most influential men on the planet. Tim Tebow, Terry Crews, Matthew McConaughey, Jocko Willink, Dave Ramsey, David Goggins, Ben Shapiro, Andy Frisella, Tim Kennedy, Dan Crenshaw, and so many others. No, I started it with much different, more selfish intentions. I simply wanted to learn how to become a more capable man. Period. End of story. Or so I thought. There were men I followed whom I wanted to learn from, but as a relative nobody, very few of those men would give me the time of day, let alone offer me any sort of personalized one-on-one coaching. At the time, I already had a podcast called Wealth Anatomy. It was something I began in order to pick up new clients in my relatively successful financial planning practice. But if I'm being honest, I was getting tired of talking with my clients about money. I would look down at my phone when a client called and dreaded answering it. I really enjoyed the relationships I had with my clients, but I was done talking about investments, insurance, and retirement planning. I figured that since I enjoyed the medium of podcasting, although I was ready for a different type of conversation, maybe I could convince some of the men who inspired me to join me in a recording of a brief conversation. That way, I would get personalized coaching. They would get access to my non-existent audience. Sounds like quite the deal, right? Well, it worked. And since you're listening to a copy of this book, you might have benefited from that humble little podcast that started in 2015. That said, not a day goes by that I don't feel like I'm the greatest recipient of the work my team and I do here. Each day I get to talk with some of the most successful men out there, work closely with the thousands of men who are currently in or have gone through our programs, courses, and events, and interact with you and the rest of the men who are inspired and edified by the work we're doing to reclaim and restore masculinity. Over the past 7 years, I've learned a lot about what it means to be a man. But that sentiment seems to escape a lot of people in modern times. Frequently, I meet anonymous strangers on the interwebs who seem to believe that, quote, any man who has to learn to be a man is no man at all. That isn't true. Not even close. If you're talking about being male, sure, but a man, no. Where being a male is a matter of birthright, being a man is earned. I've spent countless hours talking with others, researching, unpacking, and working towards becoming more of a man myself. Through my work, I've discovered some incredibly powerful concepts regarding masculinity and manliness that modern culture generally rejects. And that's exactly what you're going to find within this book. We're going to explore what masculinity is, what it means to be a man, what men do, and the path to fulfillment for men. Now, inevitably, when I dare attempt to describe masculinity and what it means to be a man, I'm often met with comments like, what makes you qualified to tell others what it means to be a man? The simple answer is this: I have a willingness and a desire to do so. That's it. I'm on the path. I've never once asserted that I know more than any other man or that I am the epitome of masculinity. In fact, I'm still very inadequate in many ways. And not too long ago, you'd hardly even recognize me. 13 years ago, I was a shell of the man that I am today. My wife had just left me with our 1-year-old son. My financial planning practice was struggling. I was actually very close to throwing in the towel. And I weighed 50 pounds more than I do today. I was broke, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It was, without a doubt, the darkest time in my life. Slowly and gradually, I began to pull myself out of the pit of despair I had personally dug. I built a band of brothers. I hired mentors. I listened to every self-help CD and read every self-help book I could get my hands on. Things began to change, and the trajectory I put myself on is what led me to this work. I don't share this with you to beat my chest. I look around and hear from men who
Sample complete. Ready to continue?